New York was shaken. A wealthy socialite and her younger companion were discovered lifeless inside her private estate. A true story that stirred emotions returns in this retelling. A glamorous mansion, often filled with laughter, became a silent witness to death. The shocking discovery of a rich woman and her young lover sparked questions that spread like wildfire. Was this a romance gone wrong, revenge, or something far darker? Stay with this story until the end. The truth will leave you speechless. That November night, a steady drizzle fell across the winding hills of upstate New York. From above, the city below glimmered faintly, a sea of hazy lights blurred by mist. Street lamps reflected on the Hudson River, shimmering like black glass beneath the fog. Cold air swept in from the Catskills, wrapping the night in a somber stillness. At the heart of that quiet stood a grand colonial-style mansion, owned by Madeline Carter, a powerful real estate figure in the region. Its stone facade, towering iron gates, and broad yard centered by an ancient oak tree projected strength. Yet that evening the house radiated unease, like a castle guarding sorrow. Madeline, now 58, had lived alone for years. Her husband and 2 children had long since moved to California, while she remained here, fiercely tied to her empire. She was no stranger to extravagance, lavish parties, expensive cars, high society gatherings. But whispers followed her as well, rumors of her indulgent lifestyle, of younger men keeping her company. That night, though, there was no music, no visitors. Only the sound of rain tapping the skylight and the rustle of wind pushing against the trees. Near midnight, in the small caretaker's house behind the estate, Mr. Harris, the 62-year-old gardener, awoke to a sound he couldn't place, a sharp metallic clang under the rain. At first, he dismissed it as a loose branch falling. But then came another noise, a muffled choke, cut short, yet sharp enough to freeze him in place. His chest tightened. In all his years of service, he had heard late-night commotions, rowdy guests, glasses clinking, laughter echoing. But this sound was different. It carried weight like a warning. Hesitantly, he stepped outside. Raindrops spattered across the patio stones, the garden lamps glowing against the wet ground. Ahead, the mansion's front door hung slightly ajar. A strange air drifted out, dampness laced with something metallic. His pulse quickened. With trembling hands, he pushed the door open. The chandelier still glimmered overhead, though its light seemed sickly, stretching across the white marble floor now marred by dark stains. What he saw nearly buckled his knees. 2 bodies lay sprawled in crimson. Madeline Carter, normally immaculate with her styled hair and silk gowns, now lay cold, eyes staring upward, nightgown soaked through. Beside her, face down, was Ryan Matthews, the young man Mr. Harris had often seen visiting. His back bore deep, violent wounds. The smell was suffocating, iron and rain mixing thick in the air. Harris stumbled back, pressing against the wall, his voice breaking into a hoarse whisper instead of a scream. Outside, the drizzle continued, city lights in the distance glimmering, unaware that inside this estate, a bloody mystery had claimed 2 lives. That night would mark the beginning of a case that shook not just the neighborhood, but the nation. A story of love, betrayal, and one of the coldest murders to haunt New York. The drizzle hadn't ceased when the clock struck 12:35 a.m., November 16, 2022. Suddenly, sirens shattered the silence. Police cruisers and crime scene vans screeched to a halt in front of the mansion gates. Inspector James Whitaker, lead investigator, was first to step out. His stride was steady, though the call that summoned him still weighed heavy. As he entered the estate, the damp smell of rain gave way to something far stronger, the metallic stench of blood. Inside, the chandelier's glow still burned, reflecting across marble tiles now streaked in red. 2 bodies remained in place, a sight so grim even seasoned officers turned pale. Madeline lay on her side, silk torn, hair matted with blood, her once graceful face locked in a hollow stare. Nearby was Ryan Matthews, just 23, chest pierced, shirt drenched. His eyes were wide, frozen in terror, as if the moment of death still gripped him. In the corner sat Mr. Harris, wrapped in a blanket by officers. His hands shook, lips quivering. He struggled to form words. At first, I thought it was just the rain. Or maybe a chair fell. I heard it, someone trying to cry out but choking. I was terrified, then I opened the door, and his voice faltered, tears streaking his face. Inspector Whitaker said nothing immediately. He scanned the scene, an overturned sofa, a shattered vase, curtains yanked askew. But most telling was the large safe in the corner. Its door was pried open, the jewelry case inside emptied, save for a few rings scattered deliberately on the floor. By Ryan's body lay a small kitchen knife, its handle caked with blood. Whitaker crouched, studying it. A simple knife, yet capable of brutal damage. Something didn't add up. A forensic officer leaned close, whispering, "Sir, faint prints on the handle will run them. Also, muddy footprints leading in from the side entrance. Someone came in from outside." Whitaker's brow furrowed. If this were only a lover's quarrel, why force open a safe? Why prints that didn't match the victims? Why footprints at all? Something about this crime reached far beyond passion, and straight into premeditation. From that point forward, every text, every call, even the precise locations of his targets were within his reach. He knew when Madeline Carter went to bed, when Ryan Matthews showed up, even the tone of their private exchanges. He mapped their routines carefully, not out of idle curiosity but as part of something much darker. Inspector James Whitaker, digging deeper into the case, began piecing together Andrew Collins's trail through stories from people who once worked with him. One former colleague remembered Andrew exploding in rage after a loan request was turned down, spitting out Madeline's name with venom that couldn't be ignored. Financial records painted an even bleaker picture. Investigators found Andrew buried under overdue online debts, climbing into the hundreds of millions of rupiah. This revelation strengthened the theory that what happened at the Dago Pakar Villa wasn't a simple lover's dispute, but a crime driven by festering hatred. Meanwhile, the public remained divided. Some media outlets pushed the narrative that Ryan could have been the killer. Others dismissed the idea outright. His classmates rallied to defend him, insisting he was focused on finishing his thesis and had been speaking about his future only days before. His mother and Garrett broke down in tears on national television, pleading that her son would never murder anyone, let alone himself. To Inspector Whitaker, the pain in a mother's words felt truer than any digital evidence that could be tampered with. Slowly, a thread began weaving itself together. A wealthy woman surrounded by rumors, a young student caught in whispers, and a frustrated programmer whose resentment smoldered beneath the surface. The unrelenting Bandung rain seemed to echo it all, as if the city itself was hiding a terrible secret waiting to be revealed. Whitaker spent long hours standing in front of the evidence board, staring at photos, timelines, and notes pinned in rows. Deep down, he knew this case couldn't be solved by a single explanation. It would require peeling back layer after layer of deception to find the truth lurking in the shadows of wealth. For Andrew Collins, meanwhile, gaining access to Madeline and Ryan's phones gave him a private world no one else could see. Each time his laptop chimed with a notification, his eyes locked on the screen, devouring conversations never intended for him. He knew the exact moment Madeline smiled at Ryan's sweet words, when Ryan wrote playful notes, even when they quarreled over small matters. This secret window made him feel both powerful and tormented. His own life was collapsing while theirs appeared effortless. Loan sharks haunted him day and night. Every buzz of his phone carried new threats, cruelly edited images of his face, promises to expose his family, or chilling countdowns demanding repayment. Andrew sat in his dim rented room, chest tight, bills scattered across his desk. His eyes, bloodshot from sleepless nights, shifted from debt figures to a message glowing on the screen. Ryan texting Madeline, "I feel so at home at the apartment. Thank you, ma'am." To most, just casual words, but to Andrew they stabbed like daggers. He was the one who slaved away with code, pouring himself into endless algorithms, yet he was drowning in debt while Ryan, with little more than a smile, seemed to have everything handed to him. That was the moment his bitterness turned into something irreversible. He no longer dreamed of startups or building apps, he thought only of payback. With his meticulous notes of Madeline's habits, he knew exactly when the house went quiet, when the lights dimmed, when Mr. Harris, the gardener, would already be asleep in the back quarters, and when Ryan typically arrived. He recorded every detail, not as harmless data but as a blueprint for murder. His main obstacle, he knew, was Brutus, the Rottweiler guarding the villa. But Andrew had already outmaneuvered that problem weeks earlier. Pretending to repair the Wi-Fi, he slipped inside the gate carrying a small device that copied the side entrance's access card. With casual ease, he tossed meat toward Brutus. On later visits, the dog wagged his tail, no longer barking at his presence. Andrew knew one barrier had crumbled. Next, he purchased a simple kitchen knife, small, easy to conceal. In his room, he practiced plunging it into rice sacks, imagining each stab as if it were Madeline laughing at his rejection. To him, the blade became more than steel. It became a symbol of years of humiliation. But Andrew didn't stop at the weapon. He also designed a digital trap. With access to their WhatsApp accounts, he forged angry messages, posing as Ryan and Madeline locked in bitter fights. He mimicked Ryan's slang, his abbreviations, even sprinkled in desperate phrases. Still, his formality sometimes betrayed him. Punctuation too neat, tone slightly off. He knew the flaws but believed outsiders wouldn't see them. To bolster the illusion, he turned to voice cloning software, creating short audio clips in Ryan's voice filled with rage and despair. He stored them all, waiting for the perfect moment to release them, framing the tragedy as nothing more than a love story gone fatally wrong. As mid-November neared, Andrew lived a double life. Outwardly, he took on small programming jobs, sending code to clients abroad, keeping up the illusion of normalcy. Inwardly, he was counting down the days to execution. The nightly Bandung rain felt like cover, concealing footsteps and blurring silhouettes. Often, he walked near Dago Pakar, staring from a distance at the villa's tall gates, imagining himself stepping through. On November 14th, the night before the murders, he sat in his dark room, cold coffee on the desk, a small map of Bandung laid out with a red circle drawn around the Dago Pakar estate. He pulled the knife from a drawer, cleaned it, and tucked it into a worn black jacket bearing an old video game logo. Staring at the mirror, his hollow-eyed reflection twisted into a chilling smile. He no longer saw a struggling programmer, he saw an executioner. In his mind, he saw Madeline's safe, stacked with cash, gold, and glittering jewelry, enough to erase debts and start over. Yet beyond the money, another image burned brighter. The woman who had humiliated him, lying helpless at his mercy. Revenge, not wealth, drove him now. Back at the Criminal Investigation Unit, Inspector Whitaker stayed awake, fixated on the case board. The same names repeated over and over, but one stood out. Andrew Collins. Though hard evidence was still missing, Whitaker's instincts whispered that this crime was too polished, too carefully staged, to be a lover's tragedy. What Whitaker didn't know was that the suspect he fixated on was already preparing to act. That night, November 15, 2022, heavy rain lashed Bandung. Water dripped from the ceiling of Andrew's boarding house as he stood at the door, jacket zipped, fake access card and knife in his pockets. He inhaled deeply, staring into the dark road toward Dago Pakar. The rain's rhythm became his companion, masking fear, fueling his determination. There was no turning back now. Tonight he would strike. And up on the hill, inside the grand villa, two lives remained unaware that death was already making its way through the storm. As midnight struck, rain battered the roads of Dago Pakar. The streets lay empty, except for the sound of water spilling from the trees. Andrew Collins advanced quickly, knife pressed to his chest beneath his jacket, the stolen card tucked in his wallet. His breath grew heavier with each step, vengeance pushing him forward. Rising above him in the storm stood Madeline Carter's mansion. Silent, imposing, and about to become a stage for tragedy. Lies spun too quickly can collapse with the smallest flaw. That morning, Bandung was still wrapped in mist after a heavy night's rain. Sirens shattered the silence of the elite Dago Pakar district. Two patrol cars and a forensic van pulled up before the grand villa owned by Madeline Carter. Blue lights whirled, reflecting across wet pavement. Inspector James Whitaker, leading the response team, stepped out first. His eyes swept the surroundings with sharp focus, his stride unhurried but firm. Though the damp chill cut deep, James was no stranger to death scenes. Yet something in the air already whispered danger. The side gate stood ajar, swaying slightly as though left in a rush. He eased it open, crossing into the quiet courtyard. The guard dog Brutus didn't bark, didn't even stir, just sat staring blankly from his kennel. James noted it instantly. A dog unmoved meant the killer wasn't a stranger. Inside, the living room told its grisly tale. The polished marble floor was smeared with blood. Madeline Carter lay lifeless in her nightgown, soaked crimson. A few feet away, Ryan Matthews sprawled on his back, a knife still clutched in his hand. Jewelry glittered near an open safe. A toppled sofa, a shattered vase, shards of glass. It all resembled the chaos of a violent fight. At first glance, the scene screamed of passion turned deadly. But James narrowed his gaze. It was too neat. And too neat meant someone wanted it that way. The forensic team moved swiftly. Cameras flashed, yellow tape stretched across corners, chemical sprays revealed hidden prints. James crouched by Ryan's body. The knife grip bothered him, fingers limp, unnatural as if positioned by force. He exhaled and straightened just as a digital tech approached. "Inspector, we cracked the victim's phone." The last WhatsApp messages, emotional, full of accusations and threats. Even voice notes. James leaned in. One line read, "I can't bear this anymore. If it continues, I'd rather die." His brows furrowed. Months ago, he had spoken briefly with Ryan on campus during another inquiry. The young man always used aku never saya. Such a slip seemed small, but to James, details were the doorway to truth. In the corner, old Mr. Harris, the gardener, sat wrapped in a blanket, trembling pale. James approached gently. "What did you hear last night?" Harris hesitated, then spoke. "Around 1 I heard shouting. Breaking glass. A scream, then silence. I was afraid, but I forced myself to check. The lights were on and I saw them lying there. I called the police right away." James studied him carefully. "Only fear, no deception. And Brutus? He's normally aggressive. Why so calm?" Harris shook his head. "That's what troubled me too. Usually he barks at anyone. But last night, nothing." The inspector's suspicion deepened. The dog knew the killer. Another forensic officer reported, "Sir, the safe was forced, but oddly only minor pieces were scattered. The most valuable items are gone, yet placed neatly. This doesn't look like panic robbery. It looks staged." James bent beside Madeline's body. The repeated stab wounds screamed of rage. Ryan, by contrast, bore few injuries, just one clean thrust to the heart. "If Ryan did this, why such a difference? It doesn't make sense," he murmured. Logic was unraveling. James stepped back, absorbing the scene. He didn't just see corpses and blood, he saw a narrative pushed. It felt like theater, not tragedy. The metallic tang of blood, the tick of the clock, all whispered of a performance masking a lie. He turned to his team. "Don't buy the love tragedy story. Go through every digital trail. Look for strange apps or hidden files. Forensics, analyze every fingerprint on the knife and safe. Someone wants us fooled." Outside, the fog thickened as reporters swarmed the villa gates, cameras flashing, headlines already writing themselves. "Wealthy widow and lover found dead." But inside, James knew this was only the beginning. Truth leaves a shadow no lie can erase. He glanced back at the villa, muttering under his breath, "People deceive. Traces never do." And without notice, the elaborate web Andrew Collins had woven had begun to split, ready to collapse. Days after the Dago Pakar tragedy, the media still roared. Love drama turns deadly filled front pages. The public swallowed it whole. Yet inside Bandung Police Headquarters, Inspector Whitaker's instincts kept gnawing. Something didn't add up. In the digital forensics lab, large monitors displayed recovered data from Madeline's and Ryan's phones. Lines of code scrolled endlessly. James watched behind the IT team. "Sir, we found something," said Ethan Reed, pointing to a small calendar-like app. At first it looked harmless, but dismantled it revealed spyware. This program can read messages, record calls, even track movements. Logs show it's been active for a month. James's eyes sharpened. If spyware existed, those WhatsApp chats could have been fabricated. His mind replayed the slip at the crime scene, the wrong choice of words. Now the puzzle fit. "Find who planted it," he ordered. Ethan dug into network logs. The spyware traced back to a laptop with an IP tied to a local provider. The account holder, Andrew Collins. The room stilled. James exhaled. The name was familiar, an IT freelancer often seen around Madeline's home. Even Harris had once mentioned a bespectacled man who fixed the internet. "Get me everything on him," James said. The screen lit with Andrew's profile, age 30, from Subang. A struggling programmer with debts, failed ventures, and creditors closing in. His ID showed tired eyes behind glasses. Motive, clear. Skills, adequate. Access, granted. "The pictures coming together," James whispered. They replayed Ryan's supposed voice notes. The words matched, but emotion was flat, mechanical. "If fabricated, the culprit's no amateur," James muttered. "He knows his craft." That afternoon, James gathered his team. The press may call this a lover's tragedy, but evidence says otherwise. Every digital trail points to Andrew Collins. He had debts, access, and skill. Watch him closely. "But Inspector," one officer hesitated, "the public already believes Ryan killed her. We lack direct evidence tying Andrew." James's voice was firm. "That's why we must tread carefully. Lies can be built, but truth always leaves marks." Night fell. Rain pattered against James's office window. Crime scene photos, autopsies, forensic notes covered the board. A shadow sharpened. Andrew Collins. Meanwhile, in a cramped boarding room on Bandung's edge, Andrew stared at headlines online. Ryan's face glared beneath captions condemning him. Andrew smirked faintly, then faltered. In the corner sat his backpack, bulging with stolen cash and gold. His hand shook as he touched it, more from dread than triumph. Every siren outside made him twitch. Every knock on a door sent his pulse racing. "It's flawless. They believe it," he whispered, forcing calm. But Ryan's pale face haunted him. Blood, screams, Madeline's still eyes invaded his sleep. He couldn't silence them. And across town, in police headquarters, his name was circled in red ink. His mask was cracking. His perfect lie was fraying. And the footsteps of justice were closing in. Jakarta's dazzling night turned into a web of traps. Andrew Collins felt the circle closing in, his time bleeding away. In the dim corridor beneath an SCBD lounge, neon flickered against concrete walls. Music from above thumped faintly, mixing with the low rumble of cars outside. Andrew gripped Chloe Summers' hand, dragging her forward in haste. Her face was drained of color, fear widening her eyes. "Andrew, what's happening?" she cried. No answer. He only glanced back. 2 towering men were tailing them, eyes cold, not the eyes of partygoers. He kicked open an emergency door and pulled her up a narrow stairwell. They burst out onto the SCBD Boulevard, swallowed by blinding headlights and pounding bass from nearby clubs. Andrew tried to merge with the crowd, but his nervous stride caught a guard's attention. "Sir, is there an issue?" the guard asked. Andrew's gaze hardened, then he shoved the man aside. Chloe gasped, her screams slicing the night. The disturbance was enough to alert undercover officers. "Target spotted, moving east," buzzed the radio in Inspector James Whitaker's ear. He leapt from his unmarked car, tension etched across his face. Andrew sprinted across the street, nearly struck by a speeding sedan. A horn blared, curses followed, but he dragged Chloe toward a shadowed office block. Footsteps thundered behind them. In a motorbike lot, Andrew crouched, hands trembling but mind racing. A memory flashed. A mechanic friend once showed him how to hotwire. He yanked wires, sparks crackled, and the engine roared alive. "Hold on tight," he barked. Chloe hesitated, then clung to him. The bike lurched forward, cutting into traffic. Police cars wailed behind, but the narrow lanes choked their chase. Andrew weaved recklessly, grazing bumpers, nearly losing control. Skyscrapers glared down like silent judges. In his mirror, flashing blue grew closer. He swerved sharply toward Tanah Abang, plunging into a cramped street of shuttered stalls. Suddenly, a patrol car blocked the path. Andrew slammed the brakes. Chloe clutched him to keep from falling. He spun the bike around, fleeing another route. "Seal every exit," James barked over the comms. Andrew realized the trap was tightening. Behind him, Chloe sobbed. "Andrew, stop. Who are you really running from?" No reply, only his ragged breathing. Ahead, he spotted a railway underpass. He gunned the bike into the tunnel, tires skidding on puddles. The cars couldn't follow. For a moment he was free. Emerging on the far side, he pushed into a dense neighborhood. Narrow alleys twisted like a maze. Andrew killed the engine, pushing the bike in silence. Breathless, he searched for cover. Chloe slid off, tears streaking her face. "You're a fugitive, aren't you? You killed her, say it." Silence pressed between them. Rain drummed on tin roofs. Finally, Andrew rasped, "If I admitted it, would you still stay?" Chloe staggered back, pale, speechless. Andrew closed his eyes, exhaling hard. "I can't stop. Not now." He revved the bike again, vanishing into the darkness. Minutes later, Inspector Whitaker stood in the same alley, rain soaking his coat. His jaw tightened. He slipped again. But the circle is shrinking. No one runs forever. By morning, Jakarta streets still glistened wet. In a cramped Cempaka Putih boarding room, Andrew leaned against the wall, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Chloe sat stiffly at the bed's edge, clutching her phone. His eyes narrowed. "Turn it off." "No calls," he ordered coldly. She obeyed, though fear gnawed her heart. Days blurred. Andrew rarely left, temper sharp, forbidding Chloe from going anywhere alone. Every revving motor outside stiffened his body. Chloe smiled when he looked, but inside she suffocated. At a Jakarta command post, James studied a blurred photo. Andrew beside a female DJ. "She's the key," he said. Her record was clean, Chloe Summers a rising star. "We won't trap her, we'll wake her up." After a late gig, 2 plainclothes officers found Chloe in her dressing room. One flashed a badge. "We're not here to hurt you. We want you safe." She froze. He continued softly. "If you stay, you'll go down with him. Help us and you walk free." He left a card. That night, Chloe stared at it endlessly while Andrew snored, his breathing heavy. Tears slid down her cheeks, torn between fear and love. The next night, Andrew ordered they move. "This place is burned," he muttered. Chloe followed, hiding the police's secret phone, set to dial one number. Life grew heavier. Andrew brooded, staring out the window for hours. Chloe remembered the madness in his eyes as he fled police. She knew their time together was closing. One evening, Andrew stepped out to buy food. Alone, Chloe clutched the hidden phone, trembling. His whispered confession replayed in her mind. With tears, she pressed call. "We know where you are." "Is he there?" a calm voice asked. "No, he's out. But he'll return soon." "Good. Stay calm. We'll guide you." She hung up quickly, shoving it under her pillow just before Andrew returned with fried rice. He forced a weary smile. She mirrored it, her heart pounding. At headquarters, James received the signal. "Good. The circle is closing. She's the bait, but her safety comes first." That night, Chloe lay awake beside Andrew, staring at the ceiling. The end was near, freedom or ruin. By dusk, the trap was set. Unmarked cars hid on corners, plainclothes in coffee stalls, radios buzzing low. In the command van, James gave final orders. "Don't spook him. Guide him to open ground. Protect Chloe above all else." In the boarding room, Andrew paced, restless. He grabbed his jacket. Too many strange sounds outside. "I'm checking." Chloe forced a shaky smile. "Tomorrow. It's late." His eyes bore into hers. After a tense pause, he grunted and left. The door shut. Chloe snatched the phone, typing with trembling hands. "He's outside now." James's tablet lit up. His jaw set. "All teams ready. Don't corner him in alleys. Steer him out into open." Andrew walked the narrow lane. The night felt colder. A man sat too still on a bench, eyes locked on his phone. Instinct screamed danger. Andrew spun back toward the room, pulse racing. From the window, Chloe saw his shadow racing closer. Tears blurred her sight. The door burst open, Andrew's face wild. "Something's wrong, we have to run." He shoved gold and cash into a bag. Chloe froze, whispering, "Andrew, please." Heavy boots pounded outside. The door slammed open. 3 armed officers stormed in. "Police, don't move." Andrew froze, then lunged for the knife on the table. Chloe screamed, clutching his arm in desperation. "Don't, Andrew." The air in the small boarding room turned suffocating as Inspector James Whitaker stepped inside. Unlike his men, he carried no weapon, only open palms raised in a measured gesture of calm. His tone was steady, commanding yet compassionate. "Andrew, think carefully. There's no way forward. Put the knife down. Don't drag her into this." Andrew staggered a step back, pulling Chloe close, the blade trembling against her shoulder. His chest heaved, eyes bloodshot, torn between fury and despair. "You'll never take me alive," he growled. The officers braced, but Whitaker motioned for restraint. He edged forward slowly, gaze locked on the fugitives. "If you still carry a shred of humanity, release her. Chloe doesn't deserve to carry your sins. Keeping her hostage only deepens your chains." Andrew's mind swirled, mocking laughter from his past, scornful faces that branded him a failure, years of envy curdling into poison. And now, Chloe's terrified eyes staring back at him. "Shut up. You don't know my pain." His grip shook violently. Chloe shut her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. In a broken whisper she pleaded, "Andrew, let me go. Please." The words pierced through the fog. His arm weakened. In that split second, Chloe slipped away. Officers lunged, tackling Andrew to the ground. The knife clattered under the bed. Silence followed, broken only by his ragged breaths and Chloe's sobs. The room was secured. Whitaker stepped closer, voice steady and low. "It's over, Andrew. The circle has closed. There's nowhere left to hide." Andrew stared blankly at the ceiling, then laughed bitterly, half sob, half surrender. "So, this is how it ends." Outside, curious neighbors gathered in the humid Jakarta night, watching blue lights flicker and hearing radio static. For them, this was history unfolding, the night the fugitives' chase finally collapsed in Sempakaputi. Chloe sat trembling in a corner. A policewoman draped a blanket around her. Her body shook, but relief glimmered in her tear-filled eyes. The nightmare had ended. Whitaker stepped outside, breathing deeply as he looked toward the overcast Jakarta sky. The manhunt had cost him weeks of sleepless nights, but now one chapter was closed. 6 months later, the central Jakarta District Court was overflowing. Reporters crowded the aisles, cameras poised to capture every frame. The name Andrew Collins had dominated headlines for months. His violent escapes, desperate hideouts, and dramatic capture etched into public memory. Thin and worn, hair unkempt, Andrew was escorted in with cuffs clamped tightly around his wrists. His gaze barely lifted from the ground, though defiance still lingered faintly in his eyes. In the back row, Chloe sat quietly with witness protection officers. Her heart was heavy, yet she knew her testimony was essential to closing this shadowed chapter. The prosecutor's voice thundered across the room, charges of premeditated murder, armed robbery, and attempted escape. One by one, digital evidence, witness accounts, and forensic links stacked against him. His defense argued mental strain and emotional instability, but the case was ironclad. When Andrew finally spoke, silence swept the court. His voice was hoarse, raw. "I won't make excuses. My life was steeped in envy and bitterness. I felt invisible, belittled. That's what blinded me. I loved Chloe, but instead I dragged her into chaos. Everything that happened was my doing." The confession was fractured, yet enough to stir the room. Some lowered their eyes in quiet empathy. The judge's gavel struck. Life imprisonment. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Some sighed in relief, others sat stunned. Tears streaked Chloe's face. She knew Andrew was guilty, yet the memory of the man who once made her laugh haunted her heart. But it was over. Outside, Inspector Whitaker faced the press. His words were sharp, unwavering. "This case reminds us, envy and rage, if left unchecked, grow into storms that destroy everything. No wealth, no technology, no cleverness can conceal the truth forever. Justice will always prevail." Outside the courthouse, Chloe stepped slowly into the Jakarta daylight, gazing up at thick clouds overhead. Her heart was heavy, yet relieved, like awakening from a relentless dream. She vowed to rebuild her life, far from Andrew's shadow. Meanwhile, Andrew was led into a prison van. Behind the barred window, he cast one last look at the crowd. No resistance, no shouts, only a faint, bitter smile. His journey had reached its end. This story sealed a dark chapter, leaving behind a lasting lesson. Our choices shape us. Every seed of resentment, every unchecked jealousy, can grow into tragedy. No one escapes truth forever. Time will always catch up. Let this tale be a reminder. Never allow envy and resentment to take root. Life is a field where we choose what to sow. What we plant, we will one day reap. If this story spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more stories with lessons that illuminate the soul. The tragedy of Andrew Collins is more than a crime report. It is a mirror of the human heart. From wounds of jealousy and neglect, he allowed hatred to consume him until it destroyed not only himself but those around him. Each of us has felt overlooked or underestimated. But instead of feeding anger, let it drive us to grow, to rise the right way. Kindness and empathy can sometimes save someone standing on the brink of darkness. In this digital age, where secrets can be twisted and lives exposed, we must guard not only our data but our hearts. Protect your loved ones, treasure trust, and learn forgiveness. It is the medicine that keeps the soul alive. Remember, there is no freedom in running from the truth. Only by facing it can we find real peace. If this story left you with a lesson, let us know your thoughts and stay connected for more tales that carry meaning, because every story holds a light, and every light can guide someone out of the dark.